The Garden Report is powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Hey, Barry Manning here. Welcome to the Garden Report. Celtics up 3-0 in the NBA Finals over the Dallas Mavericks, and Luka Doncic, who fouled out of this game on a charge take attempt in the fourth quarter against Jaylen Brown. Mavs tried to challenge it, unsuccessful. Really didn't have a chance to keep him in this game, and he didn't give himself a chance for much of this one. There were 13 bull buys in game 2, notably, many more tonight, that allowed the Celtics to get open and spray the ball around and get 30 points each from Brown and Tatum in this one. No Dalzell, Josue, Pavon here. This is the story of the series in many ways. The defense of Boston, especially the two stars, and the inability for Doncic especially to stay in front of guys. Jason Kidd said after this game that they're targeting him over and over again, and he has to be able to defend. And it's what I said after game 2.
Yeah.
This is what separates Tatum from him right now, is that side of the ball. Luka's just non-existent there right now.
And I'm glad Jason Kidd said it, and it's unfortunate.
How can you not? It's been such a glaring issue.
My point is, it's unfortunate that it took him to be down 3-0 to finally be like, hey, Luka's got to play a little defense.
To be fair, he said it all year.
Well, he said it all year, but throughout this entire series, he hasn't. You know, he's sort of like been avoiding that topic and just focusing on every other shortcoming from the Dallas Mavericks, except for the biggest one, the most glaring one, until it was on national stage. Like you said, when ESPN made that note, I feel like going into this one, Luka, it was extra pressure for him to defend, and then he started getting like almost like lazy defense, or like you start fouling, you know, you start trying to take charges that weren't really there, things that he's just not accustomed to doing. And at this point, at this stage, you're not going to just snap into being a defender. Luka's not that guy. Let's just be honest. I mean, that's something he's gonna have to work on during the offseason, and hopefully he'll learn from this. But that's going to be a huge storyline after the NBA Finals. Will Luka commit to defending because the Dallas Mavericks need him to, and he's on the verge of losing the NBA Finals because of that, or a big part of it. I'm
glad it refocuses attention on that side of the ball here too, because again, there couldn't be a greater contrast between Boston's two stars able to defend a variety of positions. Tatum, Brown, they'll start on a center and switch on to him. You have the guards certainly on Boston's side, they're able to do it too. But Kyrie, Luka, those mismatches have made it a bad matchup for Dallas. Denver might have been able to give Boston more of a fight here. Minnesota, those teams that had some defensive poise. Dallas, those mismatches are so glaring, and there's a lot of, if the Celtics are going to go on and win a championship here, there's a lot of things about them that are indicative of who they've been all year. But the one that really rises to the top, and the one that might allow them to sweep this series, is they don't let any weak defenders off the hook. It's over and over and over again. They'll go after those guys and make them work. And you saw Luka, who was hot to start this game, start to deteriorate a little bit with that fatigue.
And it gets worse as the series goes on.
Yeah, and I think attacking mismatches has been one of their kind of like key principles all year. And Luka presents one every time he's on the floor. And so honestly, when he fouled out, I had a moment of thinking maybe this actually benefits Dallas, because he hadn't been shooting particularly well anyways. And they were just going at him every time and it was working. And
they had a short burst right after.
Yeah, and so I was thinking, you know, maybe this actually benefits Dallas, and now you don't have him to pick out defensively. But like both of you said, I think going into the series, something that bothered me about the narrative is that there was this assumption that he was the best player on the court at all times. And I never felt that way, because I think that there was various really great players in that series, and that it wasn't a clear-cut thing, but just the defensive end is half the game, right? And Jaylen Brown has spoken about it many times throughout the season, that he doesn't feel like people are talking about it enough. He said it at All-Star Weekend. He said it just randomly at times. He's always referring to himself as a great two-way player. And Jaylen Brown has been a better player than Luka Doncic in the series. That's the reality of it. And obviously they have a different level of stardom, and you know, one's a superstar that is globally renowned and one's not. But when it came down to it, he was able to defend. And that was, to me, one of the biggest storylines of the series.
Yeah, it is interesting too, because you go into the series saying Kyrie, Luka, that's a dangerous duo. How are you going to deal with them? But you don't say the same about Brown and Tatum, despite their real strengths, their real rock in their game being defense. And that fourth quarter said it all. The difference between the past Celtics and this Celtics team, at least last year to this year, to me, is that they could hang their hat on defense a little bit while that run's going against them in the fourth quarter, because Brown and Tate, they're not perfect. They still have issues. They still have deficiencies. I think Joe said it recently, like they still have their blind spots as a team that are going to pop up, as great as they've been. 10 straight wins here. But you can always go back to defense. And that's what I was calling for last year so often. And they've embraced it. They've reiterated it. I feel like Joe is implemented it more into his coaching emphasis as well. The defense in this series has been everything. Dallas's lack of defense and Boston's ability, not just Brown and Tatum, everybody on the team to be able to guard anyone. Like, the bench has been out of this world defensively. So that's the biggest gap here in this series.
But it helps when your all-stars are doing it, right?
Yeah,
like when
they
you got
set a tone.
Jaylen, like a chase down block. Like, can you imagine if Luka did something
Game
like that?
winning, yeah.
Yeah, like stuff like that I think goes a long way. And like you said, I mean, he's been doing it all. I think Noah said it. He's been doing this all season long. And I feel like ever since he pretty much signed that max deal, he was saying, look, that's going to be a primary focus. That's the next step in my evolution, you know, in terms of growing as an overall better player, which is something that Jaylen continues to do even this deep into his career. Year after year, he gets better and better. This is the best version we've seen of Jaylen, and he's on the verge of winning a championship because of that.
That play where he had Luka back up at half court, and Luka was so frustrated.
Yeah,
he
had him in his feelings, man. Like, how many of those fouls were just frustration fouls because he's just because Luka's like, man, I've never been defended this way, and it's the NBA Finals, and it's Game 3. We're at home. We put together the best quarter we have of the entire series, and we're not even up by a lot, you know? So I think all that starts to pile on, starts to add up, whereas the Celtics are just sort of like more poised, more in control, you know, even when they were down by double digits.
How are they going to figure out how to name an MVP in this series?
That's a great problem to have.
I know. That is a great problem to have.
You're right.
It's going to be difficult.
Right now it's Jaylen, but because it's so close, the next game could you know, swing things towards Jason's favor.
That's
or who knows? Maybe
that's
Drew.
How it's gonna go.
Maybe Drew's stock goes up because he goes off for 25 in this because Luka doesn't want to defend
I think
him.
it's Brown or Tatum, but next game will probably decide.
I think it was similar to the Eastern Conference Finals. It came down to like the second half of Game 4. That's, I think, how the determination was made.
Well, certainly not going to be Luka. Luka feeling everybody's wrath.
Yeah, you had to say it.
And here on CLNS Media, certainly. We'll see how this pushes.
Even if this thing wins 7, I don't think Luka would be in the running.
Interestingly enough, I saw someone tweet that he could be in Slovenia playing in the Olympic qualifiers on Sunday if they lose this series on Friday. I don't know if that will happen, but that's certainly a possibility.
That sounds like a rough week for Luka.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens on Friday. We will be back here. That's the only certainty. Practice tomorrow. We'll have coverage at that. And, of course, show our sponsors some love. Game Time could get you in the building for a Celtics championship on Friday. So keep an eye on their prices right up until game time. If you're here in Dallas, you're thinking about making the trip, you get $20 off those tickets when you use the code CLNS. Of course, terms apply. Check out Prize Picks, official daily fantasy sports app. And they're giving you a 100% deposit match up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS for that. And then HelloFresh, can't wait to get home and have my HelloFresh this weekend. Right to your door when you want it, the kind of food you want, prepackaged ingredients, laid out instructions, and they're throwing in a free appetizer with each box for as long as you use it. That's HelloFresh.com/garden apps.
I got the pretzel bites. Those are pretty good. I'm
That's
not a huge pretzel guy either. We've talked about
That's
this before.
a good appetizer.
You love pretzels, but this is like, it's not like well, it kind of explains itself, right? Pretzel bites.
Just an appetizer.
But I'm not a big fan of the whole, like, you know, they give you like the whole full pretzel, but these are pretty good. So shout out to HelloFresh. That was my appetizer. I don't know. They have a bunch of different ones, but that was the one I got. So
it's HelloFresh.com/garden apps. For Noah Dalzell, Celtics blog, Josue Pavon. We are about to potentially see a Celtics championship here on Friday. Game 4 coming up Friday night here in Dallas and CLNS Media. Celtics All Access will have all your continued coverage leading up to and after the game. We will see you then. I'm Bobby Manning. Celtics beat the Mavs 106-99. They lead the series 3-0. Hey, Bobby Manning here. If you made it this far, you probably enjoyed this video, so subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out our social media platforms at Celtics CLNS